Hello, and this is part 2 to the 2022-23 predictions. So, let's get straight into this.
Right, so in 10th place for me, I've gone for Aston Villa. No, they're one of those teams, when you think of mid-table, you just think Aston Villa. Gerrard, he did well at Rangers, to be fair. And last season, I think he's got off to a good start with Villa. The team's kind of bonding a little bit better these days. They've got a few good new signings, which will help out their counter-attack and their striking. And Diego Carlos is a really good asset for the defence as well. So I think that 10th, that's kind of about their area.
Well, in 10th, I've got Leicester City. I think, they're one of the sides, mediocre. They had that great performance a couple of years back where they won the league, but too many players have moved on from that side to really go push up the table. And Jamie Vardy, he's only getting older, so I just think they need to bring in someone who can score the same amount of goals as him.
Okay, so my 10th place prediction in the Premier League is Newcastle, and I think Eddie Howe is a good manager for their project, and the signings of Pope and Botman will shore up the defence, and I believe Joel Linton and Guimaraes will continue their good link-up in the midfield and help them climb the table even further.
So, my 10th place is Leicester. The reason I've chosen this is because at this current time they've made no transfer business as they lack defensive options.
Right, so 9th place for me, and most of you probably won't agree, but I've gone for Leeds United. See, it's a bit of a wild prediction, but at the start of 2021, when I predicted Italy were going to win Euro 2020, he didn't believe me. He thought that was crazy. I've got the same sort of feeling that Leeds are going to finish around 9th place this year. Kind of not saying they will finish 9th, they could finish 10th or 8th, but around that place. I think that they're going to go for. I don't really know why, to be honest. I've just got a feeling. It's the first full season with Jesse Marsch. That could help out. Maybe has more control over the players now, more discipline. And they have spent big already, to be honest. They've bought a lot of new players. Just an inkling that I've gone Leeds 9th.
Well, in 9th, I've gone for Aston Villa. I think the permanent transfer of Philippe Coutinho, he's a really good attacking threat, and also bringing in a Brazilian centre-back with Diego Carlos. He's a class centre-back, and I think that will really elevate their defence.
My 9th place prediction is for Leicester City, and I think they, despite not having to compete in Europe this season, there's been a lack of transfer business around the club, and especially in the centre-back position, if players like Evans and Fofana get injured, they don't know what else to do.
Okay, so my 9th position is Newcastle. The reason I've chosen this is since the takeover, they've been up on the rise with Sven Botman as the main defensive option.
8th place for me goes to Manchester United because of their poor form toward the end of last season, with results such as losing 4-0 to Brighton and Hove Albion. They've gone through 3 managers in the last year, with Solskjaer, then Rangnick, and now Ten Hag. And to be honest, I can't see anything changing. It's just the same old story with the same players, and it doesn't matter who they sign. They look really good on paper, and then it just poorly executed.
Well, for me, in 8th, it's going to be Brighton and Hove Albion, because although they might not strike you as one of the top teams, but they conquered pretty much the whole of London last season, and they drew to Liverpool, beat Manchester United 4-0. I mean, you have to say those results are good, and that's without a striker. And in this transfer window, they brought in a striker, and I think that will just really elevate their game to higher standards.
Okay, so my 8th place prediction for the Premier League is Aston Villa, and I personally believe that the Steven Gerrard project at the club will go really well, and signing of Diego Carlos will shore up their back line, and also Kamara will help hold down the midfield. And I also think getting Coutinho for just 17 million is going to be vital to improving their attacking play next season.
And my 8th place is Wolves. The reason I believe this is because they've made some new transfers with Nathan Collins from Burnley to structure the defence, and Bruno Lage is just improving them.
Okay, my 7th place is West Ham United. I think that they have a very unique playing style, which makes them a fan favourite in foreign leagues. And David Moyes has created a good unit of a team which works together very well. The only thing which could hamper them from going forward is they are obviously in Europe this year, the Conference League, which they do stand a chance of winning, especially considering their good run in the Europa League last year.
I've also got West Ham in 7th. I believe this is due to the permanent signing of Areola. He's a good backup keeper, and he could definitely push into the first team. But I do also agree that like the Europa League, he needs to try get them into the Europa League, and that might hamper their performance. Like he feels too much pressure on himself to get them into that Europa League.
My 7th place prediction for the Premier League this season will be Man United, and although I do like Ten Hag as a manager, I don't believe that his project at United will come to fruition this season, although they have made good signings such as Eriksen and Malacia. I just think there's too much of a toxic environment around the squad to do too well in the Premier League this year.
So, my 7th place is also Man United. The main reason for this is there's been a big blow of Paul Pogba gone to Juventus. Even with the addition of Eriksen, I still think Ten Hag is going to have a disaster of a season.
6th place for me, and just missing out on the top 5, is Newcastle United. I think the motivation which has been offered to them after the Saudi ownership is their first full season under this after this financial takeover. I think they're going to succeed this year and actually guarantee themselves a European spot. I think that the manager, Eddie Howe, does agree with their playing style, and the Magpies will have a good year.
Well, in 6th, I've gone for Manchester United. I think that Ten Hag coming into the team as the manager, he really motivate them. But I just think players such as Rashford just too focused on other things like social media, into politics. But I also do think maybe Jadon Sancho, he's looked good in pre-season, and he's one of the players that can turn up on his day.
My 6th place prediction for the upcoming Premier League season is West Ham, and I think the signing of Aguerd is a really good refresh for their centre-back position, and I also think Areola is a very good backup keeper for their squad, and David Moyes is definitely a good manager, and the signing of Flynn Downs from Swansea is also a nice replacement for Mark Noble in midfield.
So, my 6th position is also West Ham, because David Moyes just knows what he's doing by bolstering the defence with Aguerd and Aviola. So if they just get a striker, they've got what it takes.
Alright, 5th place for me, and just missing out on the Champions League spot in the next season, is Chelsea. Because in all honesty, I think that you've got a problem when even Tuchel has addressed the fact that most of the players want to leave. I'm not denying the fact that they've made good signings. Of course, Raheem Sterling is going to be a huge asset on the wing going forward. But their depth is just not what it used to be, and I don't think that the drama from last year is really going to help them out this season. And also just the competition in that area of the table now is so much, spicier. You've got Arsenal and Tottenham really coming through, making these signings, good managers. I don't think that Chelsea are going to qualify for the top 4 this year.
Well, in 5th, I've gone for Arsenal, and I completely disagree. I think Chelsea, yes, they're not the top team, but I think Arsenal, they've made signings, but that doesn't change the fact that they are Arsenal. They don't ever qualify to Champions League football anymore. Ever since Wenger is gone, it's gone downhill. I mean, yes, they've got Jesus. Yes, they might sign a few more players, but I just don't think that changes the fact how Arsenal play football.
My 5th place position for the Premier League this season is Tottenham, and personally, I know they've made a lot of signings, but I'm not convinced that they're all going to be able to gel, and I also think that they go through inconsistent patches of form as well.
So, my 5th place prediction is Chelsea. The reason for this is they've lost defenders like Rudiger and Christensen. Even with Koulibaly, I just think the defence is going to be in shambles.
In 4th place, I've gone for Arsenal. To be honest, they went through very good form toward the end of last season. I think Arteta's finally got hold of that team. I think they finally will achieve that coveted Champions League spot. We saw an insight of how they're going to operate this season at the end of last season, and I can see them actually driving forward this year, making some good signings and getting somewhere, but I don't think it'll be enough to beat their North London neighbours.
I think that Chelsea will become the 4th place team in this year's Premier League, because I think the signings of Koulibaly and Sterling will just really elevate them back to how they were the season before last, because of, I think, only reason they didn't do so well last season was because of the ownership problem, and I think they could have got much more results if they didn't have that issue.
Okay, so my 4th place Premier League prediction, and the first club to get Champions League football in the Premier League next season will be Arsenal, and I think the signings they're making, Jesus for one, he's a decent player, maybe not the best in the world, but he'll be enough to score them a decent amount of goals and push higher on the table. And I also think Zinchenko is a good signing for squad depth, and especially because Tierney gets injured a lot. But overall, I'm not sure their team is quite good enough to push with the 3 teams above them.
So, my 4th place is also Arsenal. The reason for this is because they brought in an out-and-out striker, Jesus, which they were struggling beforehand, and they've brought in Zinchenko, which is helpful because Tierney is very injury-prone, so Arteta knows what he's doing with this project.
Right, for me, 3rd place goes to Liverpool. I know this is going to probably ruffle up some feathers a little bit, but to be honest, I think that Mane leaving has ruined that classic duo with him and Salah, and Nunez just isn't a worthy replacement of Mane at all. I think that it's just not going to be able to replace in the way that Mane had that effect. I don't think Klopp really these days still cares enough, to be honest. He's lost his magic, and compared to the likes of Spurs, they've just been inactive in this transfer window, and I can't really see them propelling themselves into the top 2 positions this year.
Well, I think in 3rd I've gone for Tottenham Hotspur, and this is because they've done beautiful transfer window so far, getting such players like Bazuma, Richarlison, Perisic. I mean, all great signings, and the project looks good for Antonio Conte. But unless you're a Spurs fan, you can't say Liverpool have a worse squad than you.
Okay, so my 3rd place Premier League prediction for next season will be Chelsea, and personally, I think that the signing of Sterling is amazing. He's a top winger, probably the best winger at City last season, and can guarantee you 20 goals across all competitions in a season. And I also think that Koulibaly is a great addition as well, as he's just a top defender, arguably in his prime right now, and he's a top player of his country as well, winning AFCON with Senegal in winter. And I also believe that the fullbacks for Chelsea, if Reece James and Chilwell both stay uninjured, then they're only going to fly and do way better than last season.
So, my 3rd place choice is Spurs. The reason for this is they have just got a backup striker, which they really needed, Richarlison, and they have Jed Spence, who's just going to bolster the defence.
2nd place for me is Antonio Conte's Spurs squad. To be honest, Tottenham in the upcoming year, I can imagine, are going to do very, very well, especially with these new signings bolstering their team, such as Yves Bissouma and Ivan Perisic, who has proved himself time and time again in different leagues, and of course for the national team, getting Croatia to the World Cup final. I think that Conte has tactical and styles of play which are really going to elevate this team and send them forward, and they'll work as a unit very well. Of course, we saw incredible results toward the end of last season, 5-0 against Everton, 4-0 against Leeds. And they're really going forward, and Spence as well, a great signing who's going to help out along the wing, and I think they're going to perform very well this year.
Well, in 2nd I've gone for Manchester City, and this is because, I mean, I know they've got Haaland in, a striker that they were longing for, but I just think they lack the desire for the Premier League, winning it so many times. I think they're going to go so hard out after the Champions League that they forget about the Premier League mostly, and it will really affect them.
Okay, so my 2nd place prediction for the Premier League, and just missing out on the title, is Manchester City. And I know they've signed Haaland, and that is a very, very good signing, but I also think he has the potential to be injured and not score as many goals as City fans would like. And I believe losing Sterling is a massive blow for them, because he's been their top scorer in most seasons for the last 5-6 years now, and the losses of Jesus and Zinchenko will impact their squad depth heavily, as they have no one else to play left back behind Cancelo, and Alvarez, who's only young, is their only backup striker.
So, my 2nd place is Liverpool. The reason I've changed them list, even though they've got Nunez in, I don't think they're able to compete with Manchester City.
Number 1 place in the upcoming Premier League season for me goes to Manchester City again. I just think that they've established themselves as a very, very good team in the Premier League over the last few years by winning it time and time again, and then finishing 2nd even if they didn't win it. I think that Guardiola's got a very strong hold over the team. They've got Haaland, they've got players which can play on the outside and inside and drive forward and defend very well as well. I think that they are going to continue on with their good form and win the season again.
Very good points there, but I disagree. I think that Liverpool will top the table, because I think they'll have more desire. Only losing the league by 1 point last season really would have annoyed Jurgen Klopp, I believe. I think, yes, they got rid of Mane, but they got in a better player, I believe, in Nunez, because he has scored 4 goals in the Champions League. I just didn't see that quality from Mane. But then again, City do seem the better side, but I just think they'll be focused on other competitions.
Okay, my prediction for the winner of the 2022-2023 Premier League season will be Liverpool. And personally, I believe after missing out on the league by 1 point last season, that Klopp will have his team fired up and go again and win the league this season. And I think that signing Carvalho is good squad depth and a good young player for the future. And I also think Nunez will be very good this season with players like Salah creating chances for him, as well as Diaz coming in to replace Mane, making the loss of Mane less impactful on the team.
On my first place, and the Premier League champions, is Manchester City. The reason I believe this is because they brought in Haaland, who can score plenty of goals, and last season, which they didn't really have a proper striker.
Thank you for watching our Premier League 22-23 predictions, and remember to like and subscribe for more videos.
Remember, every little helps.